Hi everyone, this is going to be probably the first of maybe a couple of videos I'm going to do about sort of what vinyls I've got and what music I like. Today I'm going to do sort of early British kind of post-punk synth pop type stuff. So I'm going to start off with a few sort of the influential records that were pretty big. So some of the early British electronic bands. So we've got start with Kraftwerk Autobahn. That's a great album, very influential. And we've got also Radioactivity by Kraftwerk. That was like OMD were obsessed with this album, so you can hear that in a lot of their stuff, which we'll come to later on. And my favourite one, Trans-Europe Express. That was very important as well. Like you can hear a lot of the Trans-Europe Express drums kind of going on a lot of the early Human League stuff and things like that. So that's a really good record. I recommend that one. That's probably my favourite Kraftwerk album. And we've got the soundtrack to Clockwork Orange by Wendy Carlos as well. That's very early sort of big synth sound. So that was very big in sort of the 70s. Good electronic stuff there. And I'm probably going to get a good telling off now for not having Low by David Bowie included in my list of influential early electronic albums. I just don't like David Bowie that much, for honest. I was always a much bigger fan of Brian Eno, so instead I've put in the first Roxy Music album, which Brian Eno was on. Some really quite bizarre electronic-y type treatments going on in the background there. Really good stuff. And the second album, it was only on the first two albums. They're both really good records, thoroughly recommend them. And I've got a couple of albums that are sort of bands that were around before, I thought of as sort of post-punk bands, but they were sort of around before post-punk, not before punk, I'm not talking about. We've got Throbbing Gristle, Dead on Arrival. This is the one I had Hamburger Lady on. This is sort of one of the easier ones to get hold of on vinyl. They seem to be quite difficult to get hold of as well, especially these are all originals as well. These are all original first runs as well. None of these are reproductions. This is I won't say the most accessible one. It borders on not music a lot. That's early, very bizarre electronic stuff. If you stomach it, that's really quite good. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think they're absolutely fantastic. I thoroughly recommend them if you're into industrial type stuff. Quite heavy. We've got Cabaret Voltaire, Red Mecca. I've picked this one. This is the sort of last good Cabaret Voltaire album. They went a bit sort of mainstream and a bit sort of dance. I suppose we're in the sort of mid-80s, but this was sort of 1981, their last good album. Proper good industrial sounds. They've probably got maybe sort of the first four albums are definitely worth a listen. Very good post-punk sound. I've got one of my favourite bands, Human League Mark 1, as I like to call them, or as they're referred to a lot of Human League Mark 1. Reproduction. I think this is one of the most underrated albums of all time. It's really quite good. I think considering when it was put out, it's really quite ahead of its time. We've got some really bizarre, wacky electronic drums on it. Really quite odd. It's got some great. They had a good few singles off this as well. They got Circus of Death and Empire State Human as well. There were some good singles off this as well, which I've got. We're just doing LPs today, so we've got that one and the second Human League LP, Trivalog. That's got another good couple of singles they had on as well. Black Hit of Space. Actually, I'm not sure that was released as a single, but that is a good song. The Black Hit of Space. That's a very good album as well. Really quite ever so wacky, really wacky. They're sort of accused of being a bit sort of stilted, the drums, because it was sort of pre-drum machine era, so they had sort of drum sounds that they invented themselves using synths, which I think sound actually quite good and really quite unusual. And then we've got this one as well. This was the second release they did before both these LPs. This is It's only 4 songs, but it comes with a weird little flexi disc inside of the band, so sort of talking about what they could put on a flexi disc. And if you like early Human League stuff, this is a really good little, just a bit of memorabilia you can get. So yeah, that's definitely worth a go if you like that sort of thing. We've got absolute classic now, Unknown Pleasures, Joy Division. Wasn't a little bit less obviously electronic based, but it had some sort of sorts of weird atmospheres on it and things like that. You know, it was all in the production, very well produced. But they did go a bit more electronic as they went on. Close as the second, or the last album they did, before Ian Curtis died. That's got a bit more synthesizers on it. They started dabbling a bit more. By that point, they're both fantastic albums as well. If you've they're quite easy to get into Joy Division. Then you had 2 albums, so if you've not got into Joy Division, get both of them. And we've got the first OMD album. This is a really nice one actually. I'll just whip this out and show you. It's got this really cool die-cut sleeve that Peter Saville did for him. If you can see my face through there, if you punch it out, well, that was really quite cool. It's before they were sort of quite very pop as well. OMD. They started out, they were a bit less pop. They were actually quite cutting edge, I suppose, at the time. Of course, it became absolutely huge. The Architecture and Morality did very well, but they've got the second album as well here. Organisation. This is very dark. Like, I think they were touring with Joy Division at the time, so I think a bit of the Joy Division darkness has sort of rubbed off on them on this record. That's got some really good stuff on it. Stand Low is a great song with sort of oil refinery sounds going along in the background, which is really quite industrial. I like that. So, and this is dirt cheap as well. It's quite good. None of this stuff's sort of collectible or valuable, so it's quite. You can get hold of these quite easily, and they're quite cheap. So which is good if you like this sort of period of music. They're not very difficult to get. What I just got the other day, Fad Gadget's I think first or second album. I've actually got it on in the background now. I don't know if you can hear it. Still listening to that properly then. That's ever so wacky. He was the first person on the first signing on Mute Records by Daniel Miller. He was an early, probably the first fully electronic label in the UK. So that's definitely worth a listen. That's really good. Yeah, Daniel Miller actually played some synths and some sequences on that as well. So if you like any of his stuff, that's a good thing to get. If you like Depeche Mode and things like that. And we've got possibly the king of early electronic British music, Gary Newman. I'm doing these in the wrong order actually. I've got his Tube by Army album coming up next for some reason. This is the good one though. I think the nice thing about Gary Newman was, although he was sort of synthy, very synthy, the drums and the bass was all played by, you know, like a proper bass player, a proper drummer. So it was actually quite groovy as well, which was quite good. It was quite different to a lot of, especially the stuff that came after it, which is a bit more sort of cold, I think. But that's actually quite groovy. Then so I've done these in the wrong order. I've got the first Tube Army album, the replicas, the famous one, with our friends Electric on it. This is a really good record as well. It's much more guitar-y. It's got a lot of guitars still on it. That is, say that the good songs like what's it called, Down in the Park and our friends Electric. They were predominantly synth songs, so that's a good one. This is actually a German copy as well. I got for a £1 from a car boot sale, which I was really pleased with. That's a really nice version as well. Then I've got, I think this is 1981, John Fox, Matematic. Now this is a really good record as well, and a very underrated album as well. I think this is just as good as anything Gary Newman did. Very different. It's a lot more cold. As I say, it didn't have hasn't got the real drummer and the real bass player, so it's sort of more programmed sounding, but it's very kind of dystopian quality to it, which is really good. I'm holding these properly so you can see the covers, by the way. So that's a good one. I recommend that. That's ever so cheap as well. And then I've got. We start getting into the realms of kind of what's almost more synth poppy stuff now. So We've got Yazoo, Vince Clarke from Depeche Mode's second thing that he was in. Made a couple of number ones off this LP. This is a really, really good record. Really sort of quite disco-y, I suppose. Very danceable. And that's really, really good. That's some great songs on it. Lots of good singles it released. That's a good one I recommend. And we got hot on the heels of them, Visage. This is the one that had Fade to Grey on it, which was number one in 1980, I think, or not that late, 1979. That's also a really good record with Midge, who was eventually in Ultravox. Forgot to mention as well, John Fox, the album I had before, he was the original lead singer for Ultravox, so this is definitely worth a listen. It's one of those albums I think everyone heard the single but they've never played the record. It's actually quite a good record, so it's aged a little bit, but it still sounds fairly good. And then we've got the first Depeche Mode album from 1981, I think. This is extremely poppy, but it's got these lovely kind of repetitive drums on it, which I really like. They seem to just set the drums to go on all the tracks and just sort of leave them to run through, which I quite like actually. Not everyone's cup of tea. I think it's very, very pure pop. You just can't get enough and songs like that. But it's got some darker stuff on as well, like Tora 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 and what's the other one called? Photographic. That was a good song as well, quite dark. That was when Vince Clarke was still in the band, so that's a good one to start off with Depeche Mode if you're not listening to Depeche Mode. Another good one with Depeche as well. This one. You can get this for, this is like £1. You can see that for sale. This is not expensive. It's all really, really good bargain. And that's got all the really good songs off their first sort of 4 albums, I think. So that's a good one. I'm going to leave it there, I think, because I think after that you start getting to the realms of sort of new pop. I'll probably do a new pop video. I think with sort of Paul Morley's Label and Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Propaganda and that kind of stuff. So let me know what you think. Are there any albums you can recommend me to get from that sort of era, or any suggestions or comments? I really don't mind if you want to have a banter. So let me know what you think. Thanks.